Well, as you can see, this is a sock with a pattern on it. It has arrowheads and it has a cable down the center. You wouldn't want to wear that on your foot. It wouldn't wear well, it might tear. It also probably that cable would feel bunchy. So you can see the heel flap here, the gusset here, but on the sole of the foot I continued to use the same pattern of knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl. That keeps it nice and smooth for wearing. This is a lace pattern that makes it look like it's got checks on it. It doesn't. That's just an illusion. There's the heel. Here's the gusset. But the sole of the foot is in a simple knit, purl, which you can really clearly see on this sock because the lace pattern that makes it look like a fake check doesn't extend over here. Also, another pattern with a sock. This would be terrible to try to wear. You would tear it. So the heel, the gusset, and then you can see it's just knit, purl on the sole. So when you're making pattern socks, you should never put the pattern on the sole of the foot. So there's our heel flap in the knit, purl, stretchy sort of pattern. And here we have a slip knot on our hook. And we are going to lay in the beginning of the gusset. And you can see that we go down the rows and we lay in knitting, just like that. And we'll do that all the way around. All three sides of this heel will have this laid around it. Now, I realize that this thing resembles a porcupine. And Lord knows, you might be afraid you're going to snap your needles or stab yourself. I've done it. There's two things going on here that you can't see. In the gusset, which is this triangular piece that will be knitted in, it's very difficult to see here, but it's actually done on a smaller needle than the rest of the sock. And the reason for that is that the gusset needs to sort of shrink into the sock. So the needles that are on here, as you can see with our handy dandy gauge, are 2.5. Whereas the needles that we're using to knit with the main part of the sock are 2.75. So it's one size smaller. That will make our gusset lie flat. The other thing that I'm sure that you notice is that I'm using 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 needles. I have used up to 7 needles. I know that this looks like a porcupine and very difficult, but I assure you that this is one of the secrets I have in knitting socks. Here's another little secret. If your sock is wanting to sort of bunch up like that and look like it was made for, I don't know, some alien, you just cut a little piece of cardboard and you slip it in there while you're knitting the rest of your sock, and it will block the sock to the shape you want it to. And by the time you're done, your sock will be beautiful and flat. So I've laid in the first level of knit and purl around my sock. At the point where it rounds over to the bottom of the sock, you don't want to have like 2 rows of knits or 2 rows of purls because it won't look right. So my sock is an odd number of stitches across. I think it's 33, but I only laid in 31 to give it a little shrink for the foot. And I purl then knit so that I stay with the same pattern I was just using. Purl then knit. Purl, knit. Ah! My sock has a hole in it! No, it doesn't. Just grab that up like so. Put it over here and then both of them will be purled together. And it'll close up that little hole in your sock, and nobody will ever know. That it was there. Now, this is the important part. With this knit stitch, we're going to start the decrease. And this one does go at a 45-degree angle, so every row will be decreased. 2 together. Now go back to your pattern as it was. Knit, purl, knit, purl. You might notice that I am holding my thread very tight. I like to get these gussets super tight. That's why I use a smaller gauge needle, and I always hold my thread really tight through the triangular part of the gusset. Well, I wanted to show you that the heel flap, the gusset that I talk about as a triangle over there, see, there's the gusset, it sort of sticks right out of the side of the heel flap. And you can see that it forms this nice, because I reduced the number of stitches from 33 to 31, that it forms this nice little rounded edge, just like it does there. And it will make a beautiful heel. Ah! I dropped a stitch. Instead of picking it up with a needle, I'm going to pick it up with this nifty little hook that I got off my 100-year-old circular knitting machine. It has this little flapper on it right there, and you can use it to really easily fix a mistake. There we go. That's how fast. As you can see, we're making progress on the gusset, which is forming the little triangle. But here I have a mistake that I will need to repair. I picked up not the entire set of threads, but just one. And that will make for a very weak place in the sock. So I will show you how to use my fancy little tool to pick up all the other threads on that and reknit it. Okay, here it is. See? Only one thread. So I'm going to pop that out until we get to the area where it's very thin. And then I will take my hook like so, and just pick up the threads. Make sure you grab them all. Oops. And it's all repaired. Okay, so here's where our sock is. You can see that the gusset is beginning to take shape. The triangle of the gusset is going to meet in about, I don't know, 15 stitches. The pattern has remained the same on the top of the sock. There's the heel. I bound this heel off because it's for Josh and he runs through his heels very frequently. So you can see the entire sock. Well, if you thought it was crazy porcupiney before, now you're going to think it really is. Because we're getting very close and these needles can easily slip out, I've gone ahead and prepared to transfer these final stitches onto the needles that will form the foot. As you can see, our gusset is progressing and I have gotten rid of the extra needles. There's very few stitches left to complete the gusset, so I put them on the needles that I have on the foot and marked the difference with needle markers between where the gusset is and where the foot begins. And now you can see that we are in the last two stitches where the gusset is made. So I'm going to remove the little stitch holder and go ahead and reduce the gusset into the foot itself, so it will end up being the same number of stitches as it started off being, which was 31. I've finished the heel flap. We've put in the gusset, goes to right there and come back. There's our nice little 45-degree triangle. Now I will continue knitting the sock until we get to where it's appropriate to put on a toe. You've already had a lesson on how to put on a toe. If you remember, we did an inserted heel. You saw how to do that. And putting on the toe is the same because, as you can see, it's exactly the same pattern that I used for the heel. So now you know how to knit a sock.